Hello, and thank you for joining us. Today we're going to be reading The Bremen Town Musicians. There was once a man who owned a faithful old donkey that had carried heavy sacks of grain to the mill on his back for many long years. Now that the donkey was old, the poor creature's strength had begun to give out. Seeing this, and knowing that the beast would soon be unfit for work, the man, who was very stingy, began to cut back on the animal's food. The donkey sensed that an ill will was in the air. So one day, when the gate was unlatched, he hit the open road. "I'll go to Bremen," the donkey said to himself. "I've always wanted to be a musician, and that seems a good place to start as any." As he walked, he came to an old dog that lay stretched out and panting by the side of the road. "Hello, hound," said the donkey. "Why so tired? Have you just run a race?" "You might say that," panted the dog. "I've been racing against time, and I lost. Ever since my master noticed that I was too old to keep up with the rest of the hunting pack, he's been planning to have me put down. I wasn't about to sit still for that, so I headed out on my own. Now I don't know which way to turn." "Hey, I have an idea," said the donkey. "I'm going to Bremen to become a musician. You can come with me, and we can make music together. Why, I can play the lute, and you can beat the drum. How about that?" The dog liked the idea, and the two became a duo of traveling musicians, off to Bremen Town. Before too long, they came upon a cat sitting on the roadside with a face as sad as a week of bad weather. "Why so glum, old Whiskers?" asked the donkey. "It's hard to be perky with a noose around your neck," answered the cat gloomily. "Just because I've reached an age where I would rather curl up and purr by the fire than chase mice, my lady wants to stick me in a gunny sack and toss me into the river. I've given her the slip, but now I don't know where my next meal is coming from." "You can join us," said the donkey. "I'll bet you've sung many a moonlight serenade in your time. Well, we are off to Bremen to become musicians. We could use a cat with your vocal experience." And so the duo became a trio of runaway minstrels heading to Bremen Town. Not far down the road, they came to a farm, and on the gate sat an old rooster crowing loudly with all his heart and soul. "Whoa, Chanticleer," said the donkey. "What are you trying to do, wake the dead?" "Just a last hurrah," answered the rooster. "I've spent every morning of my life faithfully waking up this farmer so he could start his workday. And what thanks do I get? Tomorrow morning at dawn, the cook is going to throw me into the stew pot for Saturday dinner. Until then, I'm going to cock-a-doodle-doo while I've still got the breath to do it." "You ought to come with us," said the donkey. "We are off to Bremen to become musicians. With us, you can sing for your supper rather than become supper." The rooster was delighted to join them, and the trio turned into a quartet of fugitive musicians bound for Bremen Town. Bremen Town, however, was too far away to be reached in one day. So as evening came on, they found themselves in a forest where they decided to spend the night. The donkey and the dog lay down at the base of a large tree, while the cat and the rooster headed up into its branches. The rooster perched at the very top, where he felt safest, and before going to sleep, he took a last look around them in every direction. "Hey, down there," he called to his friends. "I can see a light not far off. It must be a house." "Let's go," said the donkey. "The accommodations here aren't exactly great." "Sounds good to me," agreed the dog, who thought that wherever there were people, there might also be table scraps. So they set out in the direction of light, which grew brighter and larger the nearer they got. Soon in a clearing, they indeed found a well-lit house. But this house was full of robbers, who were using it as their den. The donkey, being the tallest, quietly went to the window and peeked in. "What do you see?" whispered the dog. "I see a bunch of robbers sitting around a table, having a grand old time," he answered quietly. "And no wonder. The table is loaded with all sorts of delicious food and wonderful things to drink." "Oh, wouldn't that suit us just fine," sighed the rooster. "Yeah," agreed the cat. "We're out here." The animals snuck back into the woods to talk the situation over, and at last they had a plan. The donkey returned to the window and put his front hooves up on a bench that sat beneath it. Then the dog jumped onto his back. Quickly, the cat climbed on top of the dog, and finally the rooster flew to his position on the back of the cat. When everyone was in place, the signal was given, and the musicians began to make their music. The donkey brayed, the dog howled, the cat yowled, and the rooster crowed. The tuneless uproar burst through the open window in a flood of noise. The robbers, scared out of their wits by the sudden and terrible wail, thought the place was haunted and that ghosts were coming to get them. They ran for their lives into the forest. The four animals, delighted that their plan had been such a success, invited themselves to dinner. Each one found food to his or her liking, and they feasted as if they had been starved for a week. At last, they were full and decided to go to bed. The lights were turned out, and each one found a suitable place to sleep. The donkey lay in the yard on a pile of straw near the gate. The dog stretched out by the back door. The cat curled up on the hearth, and the rooster flew to the peak of the roof, where he perched for the night. After midnight, the robbers saw, from where they were hiding in the woods, that the house was now dark and all was quiet. "We shouldn't have been scared off so quickly," the leader said to the others. "Whatever it is gone now. You, Shorty," he commanded, "go check the place out and report back to me." So the one lone robber crept back into the dark house. Finding nothing but darkness and silence, he made his way to the kitchen. There in the gloom, he saw what he thought were two glowing embers in the fireplace. In reality, what he saw were the shining eyes of the cat. As the robber knelt near the hearth to light a match by the fiery coals, the cat, who could be very crabby when awoken from a sound sleep, sprang at him, hissing, sputtering, and scratching. Terrified, the robber bolted wildly for the back door, only to be bitten by the dog, who was lying there. Dashing out of the house and across the yard, he passed just long enough to the open gate. The donkey then seized the opportunity to give him a good swift kick with his back hooves, as the rooster cried aloud, "Cock-a-doodle-doo!" from the rooftop. Tearing through the underbrush and back to his comrades, the robber gave a horrifying account of his adventure in the house. "There's a hideous witch with glowing eyes sitting by the fire that spat at me and scratched my face with her horrible claws. And by the back door lurks a beast-like man who stabbed me with a knife. Then there was a dark monster in the yard that beat me with a wooden club, while from the rooftop some goblin judge screamed, 'Catch that crook, will you?' None of the other robbers ever set foot in that house again, whereas the donkey, the dog, the cat, and the rooster found it so much to their liking that they lived there happily for the rest of their days."